Well, welcome to the Parks and Public Works Committee meeting. Why don't we call this thing to order? First thing on our agenda is agenda approval.
So moved.
Second.
So you didn't move anything. You just moved. You didn't say what you were moving. You're going to confuse people.
Move to approve the agenda as presented.
Second, the move to approve the agenda.
We're approved. That's fantastic. Thank you, guys. Now we'll move on to public comment. And nobody officially from the public here today. Does anybody else want to say anything? Nothing? Okay. Michael.
Just a reminder, the grand opening of splash pads, 2 p.m. on Friday. Be there.
That's super exciting. 2 p.m. So there could be a full lunch served.
No, there will be there are surprises.
Oh, what fun. Okay.
The
All right.
buffet is not one of those surprises.
I was just being silly, but I'm excited that there are surprises. And people should bring their kids.
Please,
Should the kids be in bathing suits?
that is up to them, but they should prepare for the children to get wet.
Okay. All right. That would be a good way to prepare for that. All right. That's exciting. I don't think we have anything else. So we'll close public comment and move on to the minutes. How'd you guys like the minutes?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting.
I'll second what she said.
Okay, all right, our minutes are approved. Wonderful. And now we move on to presentations, and we're going to hear about the 6-year TIP, the Transportation Improvement Program from, I'm guessing, Dylan. Mr. Gamble, I was wondering if you, in your search, had found any fonts smaller than these.
There's one more.
I know you were wondering what my technique was. but,
We basically just get to take your word on whatever you say, right?
it's you linked me to the participation on the Zoom meeting, or where was that? There it is. Thank you. Okay. So while I'm getting prepared, I just want to give a quick little presentation. This is going to be very familiar to you because we do this every year. And just have a quick slideshow just to show you, kind of go over the details. So this is our yearly update of the 6-year transportation improvement plan. Oftentimes this is just kind of a phonetics game here, but the state has a state transportation improvement plan. It's very frequently called the STIP. So they have projects that range all across the state, and those are their goals and efforts, and they have a same kind of document as us. They call it the STIP. We typically call ours TIPS. So all of the cities and counties, PSRC, all these groups have their own transportation improvement plans, and they're all on 6-year kind of schedules. And so sometimes we accidentally will call ours a STIP as well, just because it's a 6-year transportation improvement plan. But just know there's kind of a bit of difference there. The states are actually have different rules for their own policies and goals. So for ours, it is a legal requirement for cities in our size, and we update it yearly. It has to identify all of our transportation improvement projects that we have planned. It is not tied to, it's not funding constrained. So what you're going to see in this document, what we've discussed in the past, is that we don't have to have identified how we will pay for the projects that we identify as wants on our transportation improvement plan. We'll kind of jump into how the document's laid out in a bit, but you'll see how that plays into a role then. There's things in there that we aren't showing how we're going to get the funding to achieve, but we still want them. So we're going to be identifying them in our document. And then one last maybe critical detail here is that there is no requirement for ranking or for the funding requirement. However, we have chosen to do so in the past. The document that you would have approved last year has rankings, and it has some of these colorway details, but those aren't actually required. What I've done for us today is I have brought a proposed version of the document, which is kind of the staff recommendation based on both past discussions and updates that we'll get into. And what I've done is essentially remove the projects that we've completed, so the work that's been done. Obviously, that changes the ranking, so I've maintained the ranking and just essentially updated based on the number of projects we have. And then I have moved some projects in the color section because they're now being funded in our CIP, whereas previously they were unfunded. So those are the three major changes you're going to see. And then the last one is I updated the map to make sure that it kind of shows geographically where those projects are and tried to match the colorways back up. The key components for process for this update is that we have to send our document approved by council to a specific state access portal, so to speak, through a SAW account, and we will do that by the end of this month, actually. I think they're required by the end of June 30th. So we have this committee meeting, and then next week I'll be bringing the formal materials. So let me show you on my screen.
Can I ask you a question while you're
Yes,
doing
of
it?
course.
Some of the things that came off the stip or the tip because you
Mhm.
completed them, what are some of the
Yep.
things that were,
Yeah, it's exciting. So Kimball Creek Bridges, I think on this, I'm going to zoom in for you a bit. This is the previous one. So last year's. Kimball Creek Bridges, 140. I think you can kind of see it there. It's got quite the name. Those are the nicknames for the two bridges. This is the two bridges on Meadowbrook Way between the high school and the kind of five-way intersection. Those bridges were repaired and they are now in place. And so that work has been taken off the list because it doesn't need to be identified as a future goal. The next one down is 384th, sidewalk improvements. That work was completed very recently, actually. So I took it off the list. It has still some final wrap-ups for painting and things like that, but generally it meets completeness. So I pulled that off the list. And that kind of nudged all the projects up the theoretical like number ranking. And then some other details here that you're going to see is that last year when we went through this effort, the non-utility CIP, so the aspect of the CIP related to transportation projects had not been adopted. And so we were referencing the only adopted version we had, and it did not have funding for a couple of the projects that we now do. So I'll call out the King Street rail improvement, the intersection improvements, the Parkway rail improvements, as well as complete streets and safety improvements. All these did not have previously identified funding in our CIP, but they do now. So I propose moving them into the green category to represent that we're actively funding them. And those are the bulk of the changes. There's a very minor detail that I added. This is the I-90 interchange replacement. Instead of leaving it as a to be determined start date, I actually put that it started in 2024, but I do not identify the completeness date. Because yeah, I think you all know why I might be feeling that way, but in theory, I can add a completeness date there. Since it's a project outside of our jurisdiction, it's not actually imperative for us to add it.
Or
It's
2040.
yeah, and to kind of quote past experiences working through the tip, the intent here is to have a document that showcases from council's perspective the important projects that are going on in the region that involve the city and to showcase how important they are to us. Hence the ranking and hence why they're on our document here. So that is the background, the gist of it. What I would like to hear from you now is if there's any sort of concerns with the proposed version, any suggested changes, or if you have any questions on the process on getting it to next committee meeting. Yeah, I'm just generally gonna leave it open.
do you guys have anything, are you working on figuring out? I had a question. And this is more like just like the theory of
Yeah.
tips kind of thing. When we notice a problem, which I'm sure you spend your day noticing problems and that need fixing, how does something go about making its way here? Like, I'll give you for example,
Mhm.
and it might be an insane for example, and that's fine. But whenever I come to, what street are we on?
River.
Say again?
Do you want this street, River?
River. So River and 202.
Maple. Okay, 202. Yeah.
River and 202. People get stuck at that left turn
Mhm.
sometimes for minutes on end. Um, and I've been there. I've been in that spot before. And what I was wondering is that the kind of thing where we look at a problem like that and say, something should be done about that? Or do we look at it and say, there's not anything that could actually be done in any kind of realistic way? We don't own 202, that's a state road. There's a whole bunch of hurdles there. How do you go through something like that when you
Yeah.
see an issue like that?
Yes. So for you, the example that you gave, I think first we would look, is it already maybe captured on here by a particular project? In this case, we do have the Town Center Phase 4 project, which might encompass some of that work. So there's some future phases of Town Center that intend to, remedy some of the urban to highway interfacing, right? Just like we saw with Town Center Phase 2, which redid the boardwalk area and the downtown. We do have some proposed phases for that in the future. In fact, we have 3 Town Center South parking is kind of like just to the right here. We have the north improvements, Town Center North improvements, and then Town Center Phase 4. So it could be captured there. That's one consideration. The second one would be, is it going to be captured in our larger program effort, so our street resurfacing or something to that effect? We also have a complete streets efforts, which might do some minor adjustments. And then the last example is that would be a council prerogative to identify projects, transportation projects that could be beneficial in that sense. So in this case, I would suggest not identifying a specific transportation structure to approve. Like, I wouldn't suggest saying build a roundabout here because that's the only solution, but identify a potential traffic calming or traffic flow improvement situation at the intersections of such and such, and then put it to be determined because we don't have identified funding for it. That's a very reasonable approach. That's essentially how some of these items were added. And that's what I would recommend if that's the goal.
Thank you. Okay, I sidetracked you while you were about to do something else.
I am not recalling exactly what I was about to get onto.
It's entirely my fault.
No, I hope it comes back to me, but I'm gonna have to wait.
Any questions? Yeah.
I just was wondering in your map, which I appreciate very much, there's a couple of the regional or non-local projects, but they're just like little snippets, like over on Northern between 202 and it looks like the public parking lot.
Yeah.
Is that the more of the tracks kind of stuff, or
This is
one of the ones that we're doing that you got the grants for?
yes, the Northern Dip. Yeah, I think might be what it is. So I actually think this is
One along the trail.
yeah, there was some mapping issues with. So essentially, we have a layers problem with our map that we saw. I didn't see the one there. So you're referring to this gap kind of here, right next to 12, where it shows orange.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's an artifact of me not catching a mapping error.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it shouldn't be orange there. It should be just showing segments, but because the way the layers work, they kind of stack on top of each other.
Sounds like a way cheaper fix than a street improvement. Okay, that's great.
I can get rid of those little
Funding for that.
mustard colored lines. Yeah.
And then, what's happening out? I know we did the bridges out there on Meadowbrook Way. So yeah, right off of 202, is that gonna be some more, kind of making like turn lanes and things like that? In like that regional area right there?
I'm not. You mean
The orange
near
one
number
says
17?
17.
Let me go look real quick. 17 is called out as a complete street safety improvement. Oh, I think I'm on the wrong. the Meadowbrook Way 202 intersection improvements.
There's an orange segment on the map next
Yeah,
to that.
that's the same problem is we're getting little tails off the end of our segment lines.
Okay.
Yeah, so-
that's part of our project.
That's my mapping mistake.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. All right. So, yeah, and then is the park and ride gonna be up here by the hospital?
I think we've identified the park and ride on this document is identifying desire for it, if it's on.
Oh, okay, okay.
This project will fund a regional metro transportation object. I don't believe any location specifically has been identified.
Okay.
This would be one of those where we'd be working with King County Metro to identify, it'd be their facility.
Okay.
There's a lot to getting something like that in place. So generally speaking, I know that you haven't had a lot of time to review this. I know that the font is wonderful and you all appreciate it. I also sent this to you digitally and we will be posting it to the site following this meeting. So the kind of key next steps are that I will start to prepare this for the next Public Works Committee meeting. So if you see issues, I will go try to fixing this map problem. I didn't see it when I had it printed out myself, but I see it now that I pulled it up on the screen. If you have any concerns, I can always make edits in preparation for next committee. And yeah, you will be seeing the next agenda bill attached to this, as well as the public hearing process. Okay, that's it for me.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Then we will move on to Agenda Bill 25063. Selecting Herrera for NPDES Phase 2 permit support.
Hello. So you remember Pat was here at the beginning of May, and he gave a presentation about this, right? So we get a grant every year from the Department of Ecology to help us manage our NPDES permits. And so we were planning to use that grant money to pay for these services. Now, every year, the NPDES permit requirements change a little bit. They keep cranking them up. One of the things, a couple of things that they've asked us to do is do this behavioral change program. And that was, I believe, implemented in 2022. So we had done a small program at that time with Herrera to get that started. That was just in its infancy at the time. And so when we looked around for help, we found that there was very few consultants out there that actually knew how to do this. In fact, none of them had ever done it before. They had done things like it. The PR firms kind of knew a thing or two about it. Herrera, being on the panel with Ecology to help develop these NPDES programs, was aware of it. They knew what they wanted to do with it, but they didn't know exactly how it would go. So lucky for us, we had this relationship with Herrera and we said, will you guys help us do this? And they did. Hired a PR firm to help them with it, because part of it is to create content that they can push out and educate the public with. So we got in with a bunch of other cities on this one as well. And we kind of tried to figure out what's the best avenue to take on this. What can we do that's going to have the most bang for the buck, that has a lot of material that's already available. Some of this stuff has already been created. Let's see what we can, get the most out of our money for this. And we had started it was kind of yards. It was focused on how we maintain our yards, right? Car washing, putting pesticides on your lawns, using Xeriscape. There's a whole bunch of things. And so we created or had borrowed other content from other cities and put it on our website. We did a survey, we got people involved, and it was, I think, a good first step. The requirements have increased, so we have to continue those efforts. And there was another thing in here, which I believe, oh yes, the overburdened communities. So that's a new requirement also. So we have to kind of address these overburdened communities. And yeah, remember we looked it up last time. I kind of looked up the overburdened communities.
Can you refresh my memory?
They're the disadvantaged communities, which I guess pay a disproportionate price for, maintenance of stormwater. They live in places where they don't get the services they would use. They don't have access to these services to help them maintain those things. So this kind of is a program to kind of help us become more aware of it and then to take steps to do those, to provide services, better services to those communities, to put them on even footing with everybody else. So those two things were the primary thrust of the scope, and the scope is in there if you want to review it. But I think it's $68,000 contract to do a number of things to help us stay compliant with the NPDES requirements in the permit.
And we're gonna use that $130,000 grant, ecology grant to cover.
To pay for this,
cover
correct.
it, So it's
Yeah.
no cost for that. Well, I just wanted you to know I'm totally contributing. I don't wash my car. Once a year I get it detailed.
I too am contributing. I also have a filthy car.
So I have no problem paying this grant. The question, I guess, was a homework assignment. Is we spent $415,000. We have $1.1 million of internal charges and $384,000 of previously approved contracts for a lump sum of $1.9 million already encumbered out of a budget of $2.5 million as of, let's call it June. So I'm 25% through the biennial, and I have committed 75% of this fund.
Mhm.
Are we gonna make it to the end of the biennial
Yes,
and not
absolutely.
overdo this?
Yeah, the money hasn't been spent. I think it's, those are the service charges. A lot of it's just labor for our own staff to do the maintenance on this stuff, which is committed through the biennium, but has not been spent yet.
Okay. Some date future, show me something that gives me a warm and fuzzy that we're,
Okay.
because
We'll stay
this says
within our
we're
budget.
burning at a rate we can't support.
Yeah.
Show me your burn prediction that says we're gonna make it to the end and not overrun.
Okay, yeah. Well, that's a guarantee, but yes, I will do that.
Okay. It was a homework assignment, Drew.
Well, I think it deserves a comment, right?
Okay.
Generally overall, so what we're trying to reflect here within this budget impact statement is it's the Stormwater Operations Fund and specifically the services object, right, within that fund. So we're not talking about employee wages or benefits or supplies even. It's just the services section. So the majority of your expenses within services alone, things like professional services, environmental services, engineering services, things like that, will be those overhead charges. So the Stormwater Fund is paying for administrative support, for example. They're paying for ER&R, facilities maintenance, and those internal service charges. So the majority of that will likely be going to those funds over time. We don't just automatically do that, right, at the start of the year, transfer a whole bunch of cash, right, out of the Stormwater Operations Fund. But what we do want to show is we did budget for that, and we're anticipating that money will be spent by the end of the year for that allocation process alone. So that's what we're just trying to show here is we do have those funds encumbered, a proportion of that services budget for those internal service charges. And right now, when you look at the contracts that we currently have outstanding right now, I want to make sure that we're representing to council what we have currently encumbered and that what that difference is the available cash to the Stormwater Operations Fund that can be used in terms of discretion for, say, things such as this that Jeff is presenting here today. So, I mean, that's the intention of our budget impact statement.
Understand, the majority of it is a million,
Yeah, 1.1 million.
1.1 million in
Yeah.
internal services.
Right.
Agreed.
Mhm.
Thank you.
One more question for the director.
Mhm.
Cameron. So with the educational side of things, I know we kind of push things out to the public about, being aware and all that kind of stuff. Is there commercial targeting as well for some of those businesses that, I don't know if I believe it's like, when we're talking about like breweries and wineries and stuff like that with some of the wastewater, but don't they also kind of affect some of the stormwater stuff too?
They can, they certainly can. Agriculture is definitely, one of those areas that affects stormwater. We haven't selected the improvements to the program yet, right? So part of this is going to be revisiting this, this program. And so we did, yard maintenance last time. We're going to select something new this time, to, focus on. And so we'll have a decision matrix. We'll decide based on where do we get the most improvement.
Right.
Right. So, and we have to look at the impacts to our stormwater, which we've done, which is the Stormwater Management Action Plan, the SMAP, yeah. Yeah, funny acronyms. But so we have identified the areas of the city that are most impacted by stormwater. And the state has another list, which is the list of impacted waterways. And so, we take all of that into account. And we make our decisions based on where do we get the most improvement or the most, mitigation of these impacts.
Great, thanks.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
All right.
And I think now we're moving on to a discussion about the, oh, wait, this is an agenda bill.
Yeah, that was an agenda bill.
That's, this is, so we need to move this forward consent? Are we, we're good with moving this one forward on consent?
Yeah, nobody's being spent. today. I mean, it's covered by the grant.
It's being or encumbered, right? You good with consent there?
Yeah.
All right, consent, please. Thank you.
Thank you.
And now who's going to talk to us about the,
Work plan?
yeah,
Okay, good. Happy to go through this list. This has been provided to you in the agenda packet. And basically this is a list of all of the projects and programs that we are planning or that we are working on and have planned out in a work plan. So I'll just go through the list. So we have the budget, CIP, and utility rate study, which, as you know, we've completed a good portion. Our budget has been completed for the next 2 years for the next biennium. CIP has already been approved. And our utility rate study was just completed, at least the first phase of the utility rate study was completed last month. And we still have the GFC portion of that, which we will be doing this summer. The ERP asset management program, Tyler, is in use. I'd say we have got that working pretty well at this point. We still have some issues that we have to work out with Tyler. But trying to get Tyler to properly document what we do can be a challenge. So we have some additional time with Tyler to help us, sort that out. But we're moving forward with that. And in the next month or two, we hope to have that complete.
So Chuck,
Mhm.
help me out. What's the different distinction between dark orange and light orange?
Oh, the dark orange is the hard construction portion of it. The light orange is the planning phases of it.
Okay. Thank you.
Mhm. Communities, let's see. Yeah.
so some of these, it looks like the construction phase precedes the planning stage.
Yeah, let me see, let me back that up just to make sure I understand this. Yeah, the community center. Yeah, so here's one where we have, Dylan, can you help me out with this? You remember what we did here?
Yes. The intent was to show that in primary working effort, it's the dark color. And if we're either following it up and making sure that it's implemented correctly, and follow through, or if it's on the front, it's the planning.
Oh, okay.
Planning and design phase, and then there's this kind of wind
That makes
down or
sense.
commissioning.
A very, yeah,
Yeah,
And now some of the things on this list have the same titles as what Dylan was showing
And the
us on the
tip.
tip, but these, I'm assuming, are not transportation related on this list.
Not necessarily. Some of them are.
Some of them are. So this is a combination of all the parks and public
This is a
works
work
thing.
plan.
Okay, all
So
right.
it's general
Thank you.
fund, it's utilities, it's transportation, could be anything. And it's projects and programs.
Okay.
So basically, we're just looking ahead for the next, 6 months or so to determine what we're going to be working on essentially over the next 6 months. So community center expansion, we have, well, we'll find out. We have a grant, as you know, we'll applied for a grant for the King County Aquatics Grant. And we should know by around the end of this month, early July, whether or not and how much we got of that grant. And then we'll have some idea about where we're at as far as being able to complete that project. If we have the gap covered or if there's a remaining gap, we'll know then about what that is and we can make decisions. We will not have a full GMP, a guaranteed maximum price. What we will have is another estimate around that time. To get to a full guaranteed maximum price will cost considerable. There'll be some design fees associated with that because they kind of have to dust off the design. Things have changed. So there will be some cost associated with getting to GMP. We don't really want a GMP till we've decided whether or not we can do this. Right. So once we move forward, once we decided that we can move forward, then we can go back and get that GMP, spend that money, and then get the project moving ahead. Aquifer storage and recovery, I gave you guys kind of yeah.
We did get an email yesterday from King County Parks saying that that date would be in August. That
In
we would
August.
find out that information.
So we won't know till August.
Correct.
Okay. We might hear rumors ahead of that, but right. Okay. Aquifer storage and recovery, we talked about this extensively at our last meeting. The pilot study phase has been pushed back till fall. We're not going to be able to do it this summer. The problem with doing it in the summer is that we are pulling water out of our
Yeah,
well
that's when
field.
you need the water.
Yeah, right. So we won't get a good pilot test if we do it while we're pulling water out of the north well field. So that has to get delayed till the fall, which is fine. It's not going to affect us too much. I mean, we're late on it, but we're late because of ecology. This is, like I said, this is the first time aquifer storage and recovery has been done on the west side. And so the folks here in ecology are not that familiar with it. The tribe's not as uncertain about it. And there's many technical details that need to be kind of addressed and understood. Mostly I think we've addressed it. Our consultant is top notch and they have demonstrated, I think, very well, but ecologies has taken their time. And so they drug their feet on our application request. And so we're not going to be able to get to it till the fall, but we plan to move forward in the fall with a pilot test. Based on that, we should know fairly quickly. 384th project, it is completed except for a couple little bit of striping, but that project is done. Splash pad ribbon cutting ceremony is this Friday, and all are welcome. That should be a fun time. Water reclamation phase 3 is completed. At least the main facility is completed. All of the activity on phase 3 now is moving to the Kimball Creek Pump Station. We will be starting construction on that this summer. That will be down for about a month and a half to 2 months. And we'll be using a big diesel pump to take up the work on that facility. One of the reasons is we have to replace all of the big electrical components in the motor control center in there. So while that is being replaced, we can't run the pump station, so we'll be using a big diesel pump to do it. So you'll see a great big, it looks like a building size pump sitting out there pumping wastewater for a couple months. Sandy Cove Bank restoration, well, I don't know. We're hoping to do that this summer, if we can. U.S. Army Corps of Engineers is a bit of a black box right now. I don't even know if anybody works there anymore. But we're hoping, we have been in contact, I don't know, it was last time we talked a couple weeks ago, and we're expecting that permit any day. Or I would not be surprised if we never heard from them again and so I don't know. I really wish I could give you a better answer on that one, but I don't know. Dylan might have a better idea. Yeah, right. Yeah,
Just- And do you talk to anybody? No, all right.
nobody to talk to. Anyway, so we're hopeful on that. We'd love to be able to do it. We'll have to do something. We can't just go another winter without addressing that temporary situation out there. I'd just be very uncomfortable. We've already made it through 2 winters and it's a little bit shaggy. And I'm concerned that we might, lose the thing that we're trying to protect out there. So, we'll do something this summer. I just don't know exactly what it is. Hopefully it's the full restoration or at least the big structural components of the restoration so that we maintain that bank. Sidewalk improvement program, we're hoping to do a summer project. We will do a summer project. Pat's working on that. Pavement management resurfacing, we're not sure. With our cash flow situation, we're gonna do something, but I don't know exactly how much we're gonna do. Just, it's kind of a little bit based on how much money we want to spend this summer. We do have a couple projects, Newton, for instance. We'd love to be able to do Newton Street. It's just crumbling before our eyes and we really would like to fix that. And there's another small project, First Street, which gets a lot of complaints. So we'd like to, address some of that issue there. So we'll do something. We'll come back to you here and let you know when we get a little bit closer. Hind comes back next Monday, so that'll help us out. Hind has been gone, so it's been felt. Town Center Phase 3. As far as we can go with that now until we get more grant funding. It'll be another PSRC grant application. It's a fairly significant cost to that one because of the bridge, the pedestrian bridge. So we're not going to move forward on that till we get construction funding. The good news is we're not quite shovel ready, but we have everything in place to move that project forward, except the money. River Trail project, we are hoping to get that constructed this summer. That is the other permit issue that we're waiting to get completed. I think there is a state, you got it? This week, okay, so yeah. So River Trail project is moving forward here very soon. We'll be bidding that project here in the next couple of weeks, it sounds like. Playgrounds, trails, court replacement. We haven't selected a site. We have 3 projects that we are considering and we'll likely get some plans together and hopefully get a construction project this fall.
What are the ones that you're considering?
What are the 3? We had Silent Creek and Stellar, right? And depending on what we want to do. So, like Stellar, we're talking about a dog park, we're talking about repairs, right? So we could do one or both of those. Silent Creek needs a new playground, I think, right? Yeah, the play structure out there. They need a new one. And the third one, Cottonwood, just the whole play structure. Yeah. So 1 or maybe 2 of those we can do.
Isn't Stellar the railroad and the open field park? Yeah,
Baseball field.
Stop Douglas.
yeah, it's just off Douglas.
It used to have a railroad.
Hmm?
It used to have a railroad, but
Yeah,
they changed it.
Yeah. It's a nice park. It's got a baseball field. It's like a T-ball field, but
Hard to use for baseball though.
hardly ever used. It's never used. Yeah.
It's not really well designed for it just because it's got a grass infield, which is,
Yeah.
if you get kids the size to play on a field that size, it's like hitting a ball onto flypaper as far as they're concerned. They just don't have the power to get it through the grass. So
Right.
Yeah.
90% of the use of it is people throwing balls for their dogs anyways. It would make a great dog park for pretty minimal cost. So we're looking at that one. And there's a lot of input from the community. They want another dog park on the ridge and that's our preferred site at this point. So we'll get to work on that and bring that to council here. Where we at? Oh, the Class A water reservoir, that is under construction. That has begun. If you drive up there off of, if you've been up there, it's on Ridge Street, you'll see the trees coming down and we got excavators. Things are held up a little bit. There is a woodpecker living in one of the trees. Well, it's got a nest, but the baby birds are like kind of in and out of the nest now, so they'll be gone soon. So they're holding us up, huh?
Is it affiliated?
No, it is a flicker,
Oh, a northern flicker.
northern flicker, yeah.
Oh, okay.
And
Yeah.
you can't take the tree down until
Yeah,
the-
or get near that. We have to stay 50 feet away from the nest for now. But
Is that for your safety? Are woodpeckers more dangerous than I'm thinking? Or-
it's a
Roaches.
migratory bird and
Alright.
it's a requirement. And, because
An
we have-
ecology project, so.
because we have the funding from
Yeah.
ecology. Yeah, that's right. So we're into that. So
If you put out a bunch of suet, you could like lure them away.
yeah. Oh, I've learned more about northern flickers than I ever thought I would. I guess they like to eat ants and beetles and stuff. That's like their preferred thing. So if we could line up some ants. Anyway, so the habitat restoration, if we're gonna try to tandem that up with other projects. So, we have that for, I don't know, do we have any specific targets for that? Yeah, right. Right, that's right. So, if we can get to some of those projects, we can use some of that money to help pay for portions of those projects. Facility improvements, we have several facility improvement projects, police department, they're doing their accreditation stuff, so we have evidence room and other things like that. Fire station has HVAC problems that we're working out, and, here at City Hall, the main facilities, that's just a program that we keep, moving forward on.
You mean a noise? I thought you were.
Made the
gonna say
noise, yeah. I was thinking- Pressure zone conversion projects, we're pushing those back to winter. We'll start doing our design in the winter for the pressure zone and the pressure reducing valve improvements projects. Those will be done, design will start in the winter. That was one of those projects that we kind of pushed back to give ourselves some space. Canyon Springs Chlorination Station, same thing. We'll push that one back a little bit. The Urban Forestry Improvements Project, we will be doing, I think, construction, we're gonna be doing construction next year, so design will be later this summer. I'm not sure which project that was this time. Do you remember? Yeah, I don't remember the street. Phil and Jason, our urban forestry group has targeted, they have a ranking system for selecting streets and selecting projects. And so there's some areas, these are really just street tree replacements. And so some of it is going to be replacements. We were replacing entire trees on the entire streets. If we were to follow that program, it would take us 20 years to get through the list. So we're changing things up a little bit. So we're doing more targeted replacements on kind of more problematic trees. Right. So we think we can get more done and handle, a lot of times we have citizen, or I guess resident complaints,
Yeah.
right? And they say, this tree, it's too close to my house, or it's, tearing up my driveway or whatever. And, if we blow all our money on one project on another street, we don't have enough to get to some of these problem trees. So we're going to do a little bit more focused attention on these, issues.
Well, that sounds really responsive to resident
Yeah,
need.
concerns, yeah.
I know that when you guys did Autumn Park, you guys took out all those trees at the same time. You replanted them all at the same time. You did some like French drain, fancy schmancy stuff all the way down the street.
Yeah.
I would imagine that sort of aspect of the project would be affected by doing it piecemeal. But is it
That project in particular had the wrong, bad trees in the old Phase 1 neighborhood, the Ridge Phase 1 neighborhood.
right? But the idea of doing a project that addresses the whole street and refiguring the way the trees are planted, the way that they're
Yeah.
drained and all of that all at once, seems very efficient,
It is.
but it's efficient on one street. I'm just wondering how much of that sort of thing you lose by going to the piecemeal, or are you still able to do 90% of what needs to be done?
You're right about that. That's exactly what we're weighing. That's the issue. And so we still want to do projects. So, streets or portions of streets where it's bad, and rather than doing a whole street, we do a portion of a street and take the remaining money and do hit the targeted problem areas, right? That's kind of our goal at this point. That way we can try to address citizen concerns, resident concerns in a more timely fashion and make our budget, more, I guess, accountable to our neighbors. Yeah. That's what we're trying to do.
You guys are always thinking. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, I mean, if we had bigger budgets, obviously.
Don't be
we
shy,
would go
Dylan.
for the
If you
roof.
got something to say.
If we're balancing what a windstorm could do in 1 year and what our best choice for replacement is, if it, so it goes be that balance. And then there's certain parts of the grid, certain types of trees.
You need to talk in the mic, please.
When I switch to a diatribe. That balance is tricky. So storm knocks a bunch of trees down. We want to prioritize those. And then we'll also focus on the worst areas that have the most likely to be the next storm damage. So we're balancing those two efforts. And then there's an ongoing effort to trial new techniques to plant new plants or new trees in certain areas. And that can be more conducive in the future. So what we're trying to do is see, is there a simpler way to put new good trees in location that's cheaper and allows us to do more? And we're testing this and seeing which ones work best. So we're trying to implement more and more of those efforts too, and that gives us more flexibility. And that's why we're trying to give ourselves a little time into next year.
I like that. That sounds really thoughtful.
Thank you.
Yeah, we do have a very good urban forestry program, and the folks, Jason Battles and Phil are, I mean, they're true professionals. They are doing research and they are trying to figure out, and Phil, he's involved in I can't remember the name of the organization, but he's a chairman of this national organization, which kind of focuses on urban forestry. And so he is in touch with a lot of the newer technologies, newer techniques, the research. He kind of hobnobs with a lot of academics, and he's a wealth of knowledge about this sort of thing. So, sometimes trying up here in the Northwest, trying techniques that are used in other places, we find benefits by doing that. So, it's been good. Let's keep moving quickly here. Stormwater pond improvements, we're going to just continue that program. That has been successful. We've been in catch-up mode for a while, and we are actually getting caught up. By the end of this summer, I think we are going to be mostly caught up, back to a point where we can do a revolving process where we can keep up with all of our stormwater ponds. So I'm happy with that. That's been very
I
good.
think that's called mustard mode, right?
Yeah, kind of, that's right. Yeah, the Ridge Street drainage repair, that is, hopefully we can do, it's just a pipe that a tree root has basically collapsed the pipe, and it's just a repair. And we'll hopefully get to that this summer. The riparian restoration project, we're gonna do that in tandem with, say, the Newton project, because we can do some drainage improvements there as well and use that budget. It has real, actual benefits to Kimball Creek. And the little that little fur court that we're talking about repaving, we'll do some stormwater improvements there. Just basically stormwater treatment that we'll implement. It's kind of low cost, but big benefit. So, places where we have high impacts to the stream, where we can, and implement it with a roadway paving project, then that's money well spent, because we save on mobilization and other things. And then the last one is the mains replacement program, same thing. We'll implement those solutions in that program with our paving projects. So try to kind of gang up with different projects. When we do one thing, we look for ways that we can do, use budgets to do the other things too. So if we're doing roadway improvements, paving improvements, Is there a drainage improvement that we can do along with that? Is there a water or a wastewater improvement that we can take advantage of since we're tearing up that road?
Keep being clever. Anything else?
So come council next week, can, for Parks Public Works, you do like a 5-minute synopsis of that for the rest of council?
You want me to do a synopsis of that? It's like a PhD in projects and stuff. Yes, I can do that.
Because otherwise we'll be all night going,
Well, you know
Important
how
to-
brief and to the point I am, so.
maybe not that pointy, but anyway, okay.
All right.
All right.
Or if you have a 3-minute version of that,
I can do a 3-minute version.
okay, let's do that. Let's do that, because you'll do it better than I'll mangle all the stuff. You just said,
I won't be able to go through this. I'll just give you the high level.
right, yeah, yeah. And well, what you were saying at the end there, I think was the high level stuff that the council is going to be really interested, that we're looking for ways to combine projects, not just to save money, but also to tackle multiple needs in different areas. I think that kind of stuff is very compelling and helpful for us to hear.
Okay, good. Happy to do that.
Okay,
All right.
all right. I think we got to the end of the thing.
The thing.
The thing? We're
Yeah.
at the end of the thing?
We're at the end of the thing.
Yeah, I suppose you need another motion.
I'd entertain one.
Move to adjourn.
Second that.
We are adjourned. Thank you.